Hi guys, my name is Blake. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm doing the mid-year freakout tag. I'm going to try not to talk about the same books over and over for every question. I'm going to try to keep it to one book per question. The first question is, what's your favorite book so far of 2021? And for this I have A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas. Is this really the best on quality-wise? No, but I am trash for Sarah's books. I still love Sarah's characters, and I think that she writes grief and mental health issues really well. And I love that this book focuses on mental health and friendship. I love Nesta's character growth, and I am really proud of her character, and I actually ended up really liking Nesta by the end of this, and I did not see that coming at all. And I was pleasantly surprised. Question 2. Best sequel you've read in 2021. Realistically, I feel like Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo would better fit this question, but I'm saving that book for a different question. So I'm going with Blood Witch by Susan Dennard, which I read recently, and I thought it was fantastic. Especially considering that earlier this year I read the sequel Wind Witch, and I hated it. I wanted to DNF the series. The only reason why I continued was because this is Adwin's book, and he's one of my favorite characters. And I also heard that Iseult gets more page time in this book, and she is another one of my favorite characters. So I continued on to read about them, and lo and behold, I loved it. This was by far the best book in the series, and it is setting up a lot of political intrigue for the next book. There were a lot of cliffhangers at the end of this one, which I don't love cliffhangers, but I am looking forward to seeing where some of that stuff goes. I'm very intrigued, and I have some theories about some events in the series that I think are coming. Question 3. A new release you haven't read yet, but you want to. So definitely Shadow Witch, or is it called Witch Shadow by Susan Dennard, the 4th book in the Witchland series. As well as Dragon Mage by M.L. Spencer. I think that came out recently, and I've heard a lot of people talking about it. Half Sick of Shadows by Laura Sebastian. I think that's like an adult fantasy, and it's I want to say it's an Arthurian retelling. Not exactly sure. Or maybe it's focused on a lesser known character in the King Arthur story. Don't exactly know, but I've heard a couple people talk about it, and I am excited for those. Question 4. What is your most anticipated release for the rest of the year? I'm really looking forward to Vespertine by Margaret Rogerson, as well as Kingdom of the Cursed by Carrie Maniscalco. I don't know for adult fantasy. I feel like adult fantasy isn't marketed or like promoted as well as YA fantasy. Question 5. Biggest disappointment. I have 2 for this question. I've actually had a lot of 1 and 2 star reads this year for whatever reason, which doesn't normally happen because I'm very good at picking books that I think I will like, but just this year that seems to be not the case. The first being The Lies of Locke Lamora by Scott Lynch. It's not that I hated this book, but I just found it okay. I feel like it is very mismarketed. A lot of people say that this is a heist story with a great friendship. I didn't see either of those things. There is a heist, but it's towards the end and it's very small. Like, this book has various cons throughout. I would call it more of a con artist story. And the friendship, I wasn't impressed with at all. The reason why I picked this up is because a lot of people compare it to the Six of Crows duology. And I had just read the Six of Crows book, and I absolutely loved it, and I was wanting something in the similar vein, something with heists and good friendships, and I picked this one up, and it really let me down. I ended up giving it a 3 stars. There were things about it that I did enjoy, but I was anticipating that it would be a 5-star read. I thought it would be a new favorite, and I was definitely let down a bit. And another huge disappointment for me was A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness. I love witches, and I need more witch books in my life. And the witches in this book were pretty disappointing. And the romance took over everything, and I hated the love interest because he was a trashy jerk. And everything about him, I was just meh about. and I ended up giving this 2 stars. Question 6. What is your biggest surprise of the year? This is a bit unusual, but this one is actually a reread for me. So I first read the Shadow and Bone trilogy in my early teens whenever they first came out. And then I decided to reread them for the TV show release. And the first time I read them, I absolutely loved Shadow and Bone. I gave it 5 stars. I was obsessed with it. And then I went on to the sequel, Siege and Storm, and I hated it. I gave it 2 stars, and I DNF'd the series. But then when the TV show was coming out, I decided to reread the series. And I didn't love Shadow and Bone as much. I ended up giving it 3 stars, but I did still enjoy it. But then I read Siege and Storm, and I ended up giving it 4 stars. I really enjoyed it, and I wasn't expecting that, because I remember it being completely different from when I first read it. And I hated Nikolai the first time I read it, believe it or not. And the second time I read it, he's one of my favorite characters, and I feel like he's one of the most developed in the series. So yeah, I wasn't expecting to love Siege and Storm as much as I did. Question 7. Favorite new author, either debut or new to you. And a new to you author, and a new to me author would be Sarah Beth Durst, who is the author of The Queen of Blood, which I read earlier this year and absolutely loved it. I have now read 2 of her books, and I love her writing style. Her stories are very fairy tale-esque, and I love her imagination. Just the worlds that she builds are really good, and every synopsis for her books that I have seen have these really interesting worlds, and I'm really excited to continue reading her works. Question number 8. Newest fictional crush. And for this one, I have Matthias Helvar from the Six of Crows duology. I love Matthias. He is just the nicest, sweetest, most gentle cinnamon roll, and he should be protected at all costs. And I really don't know what else there is to say about him. I know that there are a lot of people out there that don't like him, and I can't understand why. How could you not? Question 9. Newest favorite character. And for this one, I'm going to go with Thomas Sinlin from Sinlin Ascends. Thomas is not like any protagonist that I have ever read about. He's not particularly heroic or brave or any of the typical adjectives you would use to describe a protagonist. He is very set in his ways. He doesn't like change. He is kind of cowardly. And he's also a bit boring. And I actually really ended up liking his character. He is very bookish and nerdy, and something about him I just really connected with, and I loved how dedicated he was to finding his missing wife in this book. And I'm really rooting for him, and he had an amazing character arc in Sinlin Ascends, and I can't wait to see where that character arc goes throughout the rest of the series. Question 10. A book that made you cry. And this is the book that I'm using as an exception. This is the only book that has made me cry this year. And that would be Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. I ugly cried at the end of this book. And obviously, no spoilers. But if you've read it, you know what I'm talking about. At the end, broke my heart. I'm still not over it. But I think that the ending being so emotional is what solidified it as a favorite for me. Because whenever I think about this book, I just think about me crying. And so I think that emotional pull is what makes this book so great. Question 11. A book that made you happy. This is kind of difficult to answer. I don't really read a lot of happy books. I read fantasy, and fantasy is, pretty sad sometimes. One book that I have this year that made me really happy is His Majesty's Dragon by Naomi Novik. And I absolutely love the relationship between Lawrence and his dragon in this book. It was just so cute. I love animal companions. I am in love with animals in real life. Just everything about them in books is just so precious to me. I just want to read about animal companions all the time. I feel like it should be required that all fantasy books have animal companions. That's just my opinion. But this trope is my kryptonite, truly. I just get all torn to pieces over this dragon, and Lawrence reads him books, and it's just so cute. Question 12. What is the most beautiful book you have bought or received so far this year? And for this one, I have Don't Call the Wolf by Alexandra Ross. Question 13. What books do you need to read by the end of the year? I have a lot of series going on currently that I need to finish. One of them is definitely Rhythm of War by Brandon Sanderson. I don't know where my copy is currently. I'm not enjoying that one as much as the other books in the Stormlight Archive, which is sad. But I'm hoping that the ending will turn things around for me. I really need to finish the Lumitere Chronicles up there, the second and third book. The Mistborn series up there, the second and third books. I would love to read more of the Cosmere. Elantris and Warbreaker are really high on my list. Yeah, I have a lot of series to finish by the end of the year. That's a wrap for this video. Let me know if you have read any of these books or if you have done this video, because I would love to watch it. And I'll see you again with another video soon. Thank you so much. Bye!